So the assignment is going to work like this. Okay, we're looking at a plant of your choice. You can choose whatever plant you want. Okay, as long as it is a terrestrial plant. Okay, that is, it can't be a plant that lives underwater. Okay, because their structure is completely different than all the stuff that we have covered. Okay, everyone follow me there? So don't pick seaweed, okay? Because seaweed doesn't have a waxy cuticle or stomates or any of that kind of stuff. They just function totally different. Okay, so you can pick any terrestrial plant you want, but the context in which you are looking at it is all the stuff we've talked about in terms of plants. So transport, adaptation, hormones and tropisms and things like that. Those things that we've talked about, now look at them in terms of this specific plant. What are some things that it does that makes it unique, that makes it adaptable to where it lives? Okay, what are some cool things that it has that maybe other plants don't, okay, that allow it to survive? Okay, prime example is thorns on a cactus. Okay, cactus have evolved to the point where they don't have leaves anymore. Their leaves have become thorns that keep other things from eating them. All right, that's, highly adaptable to being in a desert environment. All right, so you're going to examine the growth patterns and adaptations of a plant of your choice. So that should include a description of the plant's native environment. Okay, where can you find this plant? Does it only grow, in one small part of the tropical rainforest, or does it only grow in Africa, or does it grow on the sides of all mountains everywhere in the world? Whatever. Okay, you describe its native environment and the conditions in that environment. So is it a plant that requires steady rain, or is it a plant that can tolerate drought, or does it need to adapt to heavy rain and then drought? Okay, those kinds of things. All right, then we want a detailed description of how your plant grows, adapts, and deals with those conditions. All right, so basically it's seeds like this. Okay, the seeds get spread out this way, and then they germinate, and when they germinate, they kind of need these conditions. As they grow, they're able to do this, or they require this, etc., as it goes along. Okay, everyone follow on that? Okay, look at any tropisms it may employ. Some plants are not going to show any, right? Like other than phototropism, all plants show that. Okay, but not all plants are going to show thigmotropism. Only some. Okay, so don't go, looking for an extreme example of how a cactus grows around a pole, because it doesn't. Okay, you're not going to find that. It's just not all plants are going to do that. Okay, does your plant? How does it distribute its leaves, its roots, and its stem? Okay, is it a plant that's going to have like one central stem, or does it branch off really quickly, like from the base? Are its leaves broad or narrow? Things like that. Other things there, does it have any special adaptations that prevent it from being eaten, damaged, or just plain survive? Okay, some plants in the savanna of Africa can survive being burnt. Okay, they can survive a wildfire and they'll grow back. Okay, like the eucalyptus tree can do that. I think the aloe vera tree can also do that. So there's some trees that can actually survive a forest fire or a wildfire. Unfortunately, not our kind. Okay, our trees do not survive that very well. So the outline here, okay, report on the structure of your plant. Tell me what kind of plant it is, okay? Is it a flowering plant, a conifer, a moss, grass, okay? What kind of plant is it, right? In case you don't know, a conifer is a plant that has cones, okay? So any like spruce or pine, those are all conifers. They have needle leaves and they reproduce using cones, okay? What you'll learn if you do that is that there's two different kinds of cones on all of those trees, male cones and female cones. Okay, oddly enough. And then there's obviously with a flowering plant, the flower is the reproductive organ. Okay, mosses, they work differently. They use spores to reproduce. Okay, what are the needs of your plant? Okay, in terms of light, water, soil, and nutrients, and that kind of goes back up to here, and when you're describing its conditions. Okay, use your knowledge of plant structure, growth, and development. Okay, to tell me how is your plant unique or adaptive. Okay, when we're talking about the growth of the plant, okay, be specific. We talked about that up here a little bit. How is it seeded? Okay, what does it need to grow before it becomes mature? Okay, are there any kind of developmental stages where it's especially vulnerable? Okay, stuff like that. Describe whether your plant is annual, perennial, evergreen, deciduous, etc. How many years does an annual grow for? Once. Okay, grows one season. An annual grows one season. Perennial means every year. Okay, so it comes back all the time. If something is evergreen, obviously it does not drop its leaves. Okay, so spruce, pardon me? That's why they're called evergreen. Yeah, evergreen is a type of tree. If you go to the tropical rainforest, all the trees are evergreen, but they're not spruce, right? They're not needle leaf. They're broadleaf. Okay, evergreen just means doesn't lose its leaves, whatever kind of leaves it has. Okay, if it is deciduous, it does lose its leaves. Okay, on an annual basis. Right, so things like that are things you can talk about. Why is being deciduous maybe an advantage for that plant versus having to keep its leaves all year? Right. If you're evergreen and you live in a seasonal place, you know, you've got leaves on, you've got to make sure that there's no water in them or there's a way to keep the water from freezing. Okay, things like that are all adaptations that plant might show. Okay, environmental influences, again, we're back to conditions. So conditions in the environment, conditions the plant adapts to is a big theme here. Okay, how can it affect its tissues? Are there parasitic organisms maybe that affect that species? Or not just parasitic, but predatory? In other words, herbivores. Okay, because we're talking about a plant here, right? But we said the other day, if you were grass and you saw a cow coming, okay, well, you know, that's your predator. Okay, it would be like you or I seeing a bear coming. We might get eaten. Okay? How does it resist or fight those infections? Is fire, flooding, drought, freezing, etc., those periodic disturbances. Okay, how is your plant species adapted to survive and reproduce after such an event? Okay, visual aids. You're talking about a plant. You should really show me some pictures of the plant in your project. Okay, so if you want to do this as a Google Doc, like just writing a report, make sure you're sticking pictures in there at various points. If you're doing a Google Slides, okay, like the PowerPoint kind of thing, then make sure, again, you've got lots of pictures in there. All right. Graphs and charts are also sometimes useful if you're talking about like growth and patterns and things like that. Citing your references, okay, this was a bit of an issue on the toxin project last unit. People just didn't do it, okay? Remember, this is 5 marks here, guys. Citing your references, okay? Make sure that you do them in the right format. That is this one, okay? Because most likely you're going to be using just the internet unless you find a book or something, okay? Author's name, date the article was published, name of the article, name of the website, okay? The URL then, and then the day you accessed it. So today is April 13th all day. Okay. So make sure you've got it in that format, and that includes places you take pictures from. Right? You have to cite that. A photographer is still someone who did work, and that's their work, and you have to give them credit for it. Okay, so make sure that you cite any pictures that you take as well. Okay, just going, I went to Google Images, that's not citing your reference. Okay, that's the search engine you use to find it. So make sure you get all of that info on there because it's 5 marks, okay? It's a big deal. Now, on this one, guys, unfortunately, this is a project that I catch people plagiarizing on all the time, okay? Because you're just essentially putting down facts, it's really easy to copy and paste stuff or find that you're not changing what you're reading very much. And we don't want to be getting into that situation, okay? Because if I find that you have plagiarized something and it's easy for me to tell, okay, then you're going to get a 0, okay? Because, well, plagiarism is dishonest. It's stealing, okay? And we don't want to be doing that, right? So please make sure that you are not doing that because it's unpleasant for me as well as for you, okay? I don't like having to do, you know, bring somebody in and go, hey, you copied this. No, I didn't. Well, can you explain why this website is exactly your report then? I don't think they copied you, right? Yeah, that kind of thing. Okay. You're going to need at least 5 references. That won't be hard, especially if you're citing your pictures. You'll probably have way more than that, okay? But 5 is absolutely the bare minimum, okay? There needs to be planning. That was another thing that a lot of people forgot, or they forgot to do both of these things. Remember, I'm expecting 2 things, okay? Like thought web or outline, okay, of your report, and a timeline. You must have the timeline. Okay, when did you work on this? When are you planning to work on this? When are you planning to have it done and have Codair look it over? Okay, all of that kind of stuff. That goes on your timeline. Make sure you include that. That was the thing people forgot last time. Okay, people had thought webs or outlines. That part they didn't forget. Okay, but make sure that you have that in there. And if you do that by hand, you're going to need to snap a picture of it and put it into the report digitally. All right. These things should be between 1,200 and 1,600 words. So, I mean, I know we said in the Toxin project it was between 800 and 1,000, but most people's projects were like closer to 1,200 words because that was the length that was required to do a good job. So that's just what I put on here this time. Okay, rather than say, hey, 800 you could probably pass with. I'm saying you want to do a good job, you're probably going to need 1,200. Okay, because there's a lot of stuff to cover here. This time, you don't have to worry about any societal effects, okay? There's no opinion on this. This is just, hey, this is what my plant does. This plant's pretty cool, okay? This plant can do this, right? It has to watch out for these predators because these animals eat it or whatever, right? It's just factual. It's just a report, okay? Same categories as last time for evaluation. 5 marks for initiating and planning. Timeline, thought web or outline, okay? Analysis and interpretation. Is what you told me factual? Okay, valid, interesting. Okay, communication, that has to do with, is it one long sentence, 1,200 word sentence with no paragraph breaks or whatever. Okay, if it's hard for me to understand what you're writing, okay, that's going to be a stumbling block to communication, right? Okay, research and investigation, that's your bibliography. Make sure that it's in the right format, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, and then overall, when I read your report, I'm reading a paragraph, and hey, there's a visual aid that goes along with this paragraph that really makes it kind of, ties it together really nicely and increases the effect of that paragraph. Or are you talking about some interesting stories to do with this particular plant or whatever? Those are all things that kind of go in the overall part. Does it look organized? Or does it look like you threw it together and at the last minute? Or you got 4 different fonts all the way through your report. It's like what's going on here? Like things like that are kind of your overall impression of the report. Okay, how neat does it look? All right, and then the rubrics are on the file there as well. Okay, that I'll use to mark you guys. All right, questions on that? It is due, I think I put it on the 29th of April. I think that's what it says, right? Okay, so that's a Friday. That's why the due time is 9:42. Okay, that's what time period 2 starts on Friday. Okay, on April 29th? Yeah, no, you have school that day. Yeah, because you get this Friday off, and the next day you don't have school is May long weekend. Yeah, I know, that sucks. Okay, if you got questions, just let me know. Okay, you guys got all period to work on it.